What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am absolutely ecstatic. We just purchased this 1987, yes, 87 FJ62. But without further ado, I'm not going to keep you in limbo any longer. I'll tell you what we got for this up front. We paid $500 for this non-running Land Cruiser. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. We were able to figure out and diagnose the issues, and we have it running, registered, titles in my name now, and we've got plates on the way. You could argue that this is worth several thousands of dollars more in parts. We got what I think is the cheapest Land Cruiser on the planet. Now, of course, it's going to come with some asterisks, and it does need a lot of work, but this is going to be a full frame-off restoration, and we're going to take care of all the rest, whether it's with new pieces of steel, stamped steel, or whatever. We're going to figure it out. So let's take a look. All right, so let's just go ahead and take a walk around the Land Cruiser and see if we can spot any issues as we're walking around here. Plenty of rust, and all of the front fender areas are rusted out, as well as the door sills and the rocker panels. This piece here is a very common rust spot on these 62 series, and we're going to have to probably buy a stamped piece of steel, which I believe Cruiser Steel sells for not too bad of a price. We'll weld into that wheel well sill there, the new piece of steel, as well as this quarter panel here. That was definitely one of the price point justifications for this 62 series. Both of the rear tail light lenses were shot, and to be legal, you need to have those, so I actually waited until I got those off of Amazon for like 50 bucks in order to drive this to be legal. We have got our rusty 62 license plate on the mail. I thought that was fitting, being that this thing is rusty. On the back here, we see that the tailgate is rusted out, as well as the upper hatch. We're not going to really worry too much about that for now. The roof definitely is in pretty good shape, actually. It doesn't maybe look like it on the camera, but not too bad here. A lot of these have huge rust issues on the roofs, and these will leak into the cab, and that's just no good. So the sills here, the rain gutters, are not too bad. Not too worried about that. So all of the windows are in great condition, and the seals are probably a little shot, but we'll address that when the time comes. This passenger side mirror is broken. It's going to be the innards behind the mirror here that are causing the issue and causing it to flop around. Again, we'll fix that when the time comes. So these came with manual locking hubs, and I'm not sure if you can comment down below whether or not these came with ASIN hubs, which is what this has on it. So that could be an added bonus if they didn't come with it already. Original 15-inch alloy wheels come from the factory, and BF Goodrich KOs, not KO2s. So that's kind of cool. I mean, obviously we're going to need to throw some new tires on it because these are technically not road legal because of the age, but kind of a cool relic nonetheless. The front bumper area here is in not too bad of condition. We need these end pieces. I think they're plastic that will go on the bumper there. Grille is in good position, as well as the rest of the front fascia. I don't think it's been any accidents. I haven't even checked a Carfax or anything like that. But yeah, body lines seem relatively straight. We'll get into the engine in just a moment. Onto the driver's side. Again, BF Goodrich KOs. And more rust. What do you know? There's actually, it looks like this thing might have been recovered from like underwater, if you were to just kind of guess. There's a lot of barnacles and just, you know, that kind of stuff on it. So here's some more problematic areas. This whole fender just can be replaced. Unfortunately, they are very expensive if you buy them from Toyota. You can just get one off of a parts vehicle if you can find one. But the people that are selling those are probably going to sell them for quite a bit of money too. So we're going to run with this for just a little while. Windshield is cracked, and we're going to have to replace that eventually so that water doesn't seep into the cab. It looks like this driver's side door has an issue with it where it's not closing correctly. And we'll have to address that so we don't get water leakage into the cab, which there's already plenty. You can kind of see a sheet metal screw here going through that, which is not from factory, I don't believe, to try and keep it down. But yeah, this door is not closing properly, so that'll be something we'll have to address. Lots of rust and bubbling on the rear driver's side door here and the sills as well. That's going to have to be addressed at a later time with extensive panel repair, and this would probably be a good candidate. In fact, this is a good candidate for a frame-off restoration because a lot of this is going to be very difficult to do on the truck. And we're back with the moss. Plenty of moss, as this has been sitting for I don't even know how long, really. It's definitely been sitting for quite some time. When we were pulling this out of where I got it from, up in Eureka, Montana, it suffered a little bit of a panel damage issue where there was a boat in the way and it got pulled into it. So there's a scratch here, and that's unfortunate. It bent it a little bit, but I'm not too concerned with that. That's a paint more than a body issue. I can probably pull that out. Won't be straight, but this is probably not going to be a full frame off like restoration for Bring a Trailer. It's going to be more of a wheeler / camping rig. We were essentially able to get a really good deal on this Land Cruiser is the fuel door area. Well, we created the door, really, and I know some people are probably crying and screaming, but we needed to get this running so we could get it registered so that it could be on the property. So if you look here, the wires were actually cut, and we had to splice them into operation. We tested for 12 volts, and we had no 12 volts going to the pump, so when we cut this open, which is one way to skin the cat, we were able to see that the wires were pinched and had come apart. Unlike the FJ and FZJ 80s, this fuel door is not here. You have to take an angle grinder to it or drop the tank in order to access your fuel pump. So we just opted for the quick route, even though this isn't pretty and it takes down the resale value. Not too worried about that. We just wanted to get it running as a proof of concept and make sure the engine ran good, which we will see in a sec. Here's the fuel sending unit, which there is a door for. I don't know why Toyo didn't put both there, probably so their technicians could make a little bit more money, but this was the cause of the no start issue. This cladding here, this inside little insulation piece, is torn apart on this side, so that will have to be addressed if we want that to look aesthetically pleasing. We have our bladder here for our rear wiper, and it seems to be in good working condition. On this side, we're in pretty good shape as far as the overall condition of this door card, whatever you want to call that, for the rear area. As you can probably guess, the battery was dead, so we had to purchase a new battery. And so that took up the price a little bit, but that's to be expected when buying a non-running vehicle. Interior is pretty trash. It's really bad, actually. So I'm probably just going to take a cleaning device of some sort and like a Bissell and just shampoo all of the carpet. Seats are actually in pretty good condition. Let's take a look at the front seats. So if we look into the interior here, the driver's side door card looks to be in pretty good condition. Missing a speaker potentially. Not sure what's going on there. Driver's seat doesn't really look that bad of condition, to be honest. Usually these are in much worse condition, and there's just a little bit of tearing there, which is a common area from getting in and out of the truck. All the bolstering and everything looks pretty good. The passenger side seat is in good condition, aside from all the dirt. This actually didn't come with a key, unfortunately, so we were stuck with the task of finding a key or trying to find a code. So what you have to do is remove that passenger lock cylinder on that door side, and then there will be a four-digit code. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get my camera to focus on this. This one reads K4389. So we were able to give that to the locksmith and have him do his magic, and we were able to get a set of keys made for like 40 bucks. Center console is missing its top hatch, but we can probably find one of those eventually. Those are discontinued. I looked online and couldn't find it. So we have our transfer case operation here with the high and low, as well as the button here, which disengages or engages the front axle, I believe. All of our heating, air conditioning, and everything is still there. We have a cheap JVC aftermarket unit. The glove box, full of, I'm sure, receipts and all that fun stuff. Rear view mirror is in good shape. Since I don't have my passenger mirror, it comes in handy. The classic Land Cruiser steering wheel, and actually only 206,000 miles. So not too bad. The speedometer does not work, so we'll have to look at the speed sensor on that, or whatever sensor that is. Odometer works well. And the only thing that isn't working is the fuel sending unit. Could be bad, or I could just need to look at the wiring there, but all the instrumentation works. So this is the 3F engine, not the 3FE like we had in the one in Vegas. So this is fuel injected, which is good. It's not carbureted like the old 60 series. And it runs and drives pretty well. That's what I was really curious, and why I cut into that fuel door as well, because I wanted to see whether or not this was going to be in running condition. So one thing that did worry me a little bit was the radiator here, which is aluminum, new and aftermarket. They didn't come with these from the factory, so I thought that could have been a potential head gasket issue. Here is the new-ish battery that we have installed, and we'll take a look at the problematic area that we were able to diagnose. So you can see here, this is the fuel filter in its spot where it should be, but it is not hooked up to anything. So what I found right off the bat was this little nugget here, which is the fuel filter that is in operation. And it has some sort of plumber's putty or something around it. So that looks pretty sketch, and we'll have to address that at a later time, but it does run through that fuel line there. So the fuel filters could be clogged as well. We'll replace those. They're pretty cheap, but I need to source this fuel line from somewhere, because that's a potential, that is a failure point right there. So that'll be going to the injector side of the engine, I believe. Still familiarizing myself with the 3Fs, but she does run. We'll start it up in a sec here. The front leaf springs are sagging, and those will need to be replaced. This thing is kind of bouncy all over the road. Pretty typical for the steel to be bent and not operating as it should be. Front differential housing looks pretty good. Some rust, but most of it looks superficial. Some oil as well, as they're going to have leaks. Pretty common with something this age, but it is running again, so we're good there. Shackles will need to be addressed, and more so the mounting locations to the frame, making sure that everything has structural integrity. Rear leaf springs are sagging as well, and here's where a lot of the problematic rust could be on the frame here. It does feel solid. I've knocked around quite a few spots and looked for any issues regarding, frame rot, and look, it's going to be there. It is what it is. We're purchasing a $500 Land Cruiser. Transfer case shifts and operates correctly. What would have to be done if you wanted to do a proper restoration would be to take the frame off and do a full sandblasting and recoating, which hopefully we'll do once we get our garage in a 2-post lift. So all of the rocker panels are experiencing heavy rust. This was taken from, again, Eureka, Montana, which is very close to Canada, and they do salt the roads quite a bit up there, and that's where the majority of this is going to come from, but still intact-ish. Moving on to the rear part of the vehicle here. Here's the fuel tank. Doesn't look to be too bad as far as the rust on the tank, but this is where I would have had to drop the fuel tank in order to get to that fuel pump. I didn't want to opt for that because I didn't have the space, and quite frankly because I was impatient. So the C channeling up at the rear part of the frame where it attaches to this rear cross member has definitely got some bubbling. This is probably where it looks like I've seen the worst rust on the truck, and this is this open section here where it's not boxed, and there's a lot of bubbling from that rust. So we could potentially just cut all this out, weld some new in, and actually box it, and hopefully take care of that. These rear shackle areas are going to be potentially problematic. We don't want those breaking off, so we might have to reinforce those with new mounts. Lots of rust in this section here around the rear axle housing. Most of it looks superficial, but it is caked on there pretty well. So let's go ahead and start it up so you can hear it running. So she purrs pretty quietly. like I said, engine runs pretty good. We'll be doing a compression test eventually, but for 500 bucks, really ain't that bad. So what are the plans with this Land Cruiser? Well, obviously to enjoy it while I can. I'm saving up for a property so that I can get a proper garage and we can do all of these projects in a, you know, nice area where we have a 2-post lift and we can diagnose things as we should. A lot of the things that I've done in this channel have been kind of backyard and shade tree, and they work, and I'm glad to provide that, you know, help to everybody to find cheap solutions to potentially expensive problems. But we want to definitely take our time with this and do a nice restoration on this. So we're going to wait until we have the garage and we can take it off, the body off of the frame, and do a full resto. So probably not going to be a bring a trailer build, but we want it to at least get looking nice. So potential swap candidates for this vehicle would be a 6BT, although you'd have to do a frame over axle in order to compensate for the extra weight of the Cummins, or potentially, like everyone does, an LS swap, or just keep it stock. Let me hear from you guys what you think would be the best, or which swaps you have experience with on these trucks. Overall, I'm very excited to have a piece of history. I've actually owned one of these trucks about 14 years ago. It was my very first Land Cruiser that I purchased, and they're just super nostalgic. They look super cool, and they turn heads going down the road. They only made 17,000 of these, so there's really just not that many left. If you're interested in seeing more Land Cruiser related content and you want to see me build this FJ62, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.